Part 43. After the wife of a wealthy family was read by her mind, the melon field was full of wild animals. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 421. Duanyi kept repeating, "You stole my life," venting the depression in his heart, as if it was another kind of salvation that saw hope in despair. Yes, how could such a terrible life and such a terrible family belong to her? She could finally stay away from her evil mother without feeling guilty. And her roar not only stunned the people in front of her on the spot, but the entire quiet old house began to turn on the lights one after another. After all, it was too quiet outside in the middle of the night, and any obvious movement would wake him up. Uncle Xuanhuan and Aunt Six were the first to rush out because they heard their precious daughter's name. When I rushed over, I saw my daughter's face turning pale from fright, and I immediately went to hug her and coax her. When Duanyi saw this scene, tears flowed uncontrollably. She wanted to step forward and push Qin Tiantian away, but the housekeeper frowned and blocked her. Naturally, the housekeeper's eyes were full of disbelief, thinking that the little girl in front of him was crazy about wanting to be a eldest lady. "Mom and Dad, look at me. I am your daughter." It was Mao Ji who secretly changed the child. Qin Tiantian is Mao Ji's daughter. This time he said it in front of Uncle Xuanhuan and Aunt Six, which immediately stunned them. "What are you talking nonsense about, girl?" Uncle Qin said sternly. Although Aunt Xuanhuan didn't say anything, she hugged Qin Tiantian, who was stunned and looked at Duanyi eagerly. Duanyi cried even harder, as if she was the child who came to destroy this family. "No, you have to believe me. I just overheard the truth tonight. When you were in the hospital together, she changed the child in order to let her daughter live the life of a young lady. Please recall, Mao does she treat Qin Tiantian better than me? If I am her biological daughter, why would she be like this?" Such words made the shrewd Uncle Xuanhuan's eyes flash and his heart skip a beat. But he still subconsciously rejects intruders. That doesn't prove. Paternity test, we do a paternity test. I heard their conspiracy with my own ears. If this is all false, then I will accept my fate. But what if it is true? Do you really want to recognize the thief's daughter as your own daughter? Drive away my biological daughter? Think about it, if everything is true, then my life is completely ruined by her mother. What kind of day is it? Duanyi brushed away his hair and rolled up his sleeves and trouser legs. During this period, many people came to the square, including Jifei and Qin Xian. Jifei looked at all this in a daze. She didn't expect that the secret she only knew a few hours ago would be exposed at this moment. She also wanted to say that if Qin Xian investigated anything, she would secretly do an appraisal first and confirm everything. After all, she also don't dare to take risks. She knew that everything Duanyi said was true, but although she and Qin Xian no longer have to struggle, but such an impact. Jifei looked at Qin Tiantian. At this time, Qin Tianatian's face was pale. She was obviously affected and began to doubt herself. The expressions of Uncle Xuanhuan and Aunt Six were even more indescribable, and Aunt Six's body was trembling. Looking at Duanyi, she is also pitiful. The scars on her body were obviously left not long ago, which means that she had just left the Qin family and suffered domestic violence when she returned home. And there seemed to be more than these scars on her body. It was obvious that she had been abused in the past. It left traces, and this scene made Jifei suffocate. If it was really a life that was exchanged, that period of Art's life would have been too miserable. They have abused me for many years and treated me very badly. They even refused to let me go to school. In the end, I even asked Qin Tiantian for help. It's really ridiculous when I think about it now. Qin Tiantian stiffened when Duanyi looked at her, and tears burst into her eyes. Shaking his head and denying instinctively, who can accept that the parents he loves the most will turn around and become someone else's? Duanyi looked at Uncle Qin Lu and Aunt Six stubbornly. Mao Ji's husband also wanted to sell me to an old bachelor as his wife in exchange for bride price. Just because her man knew the secret of exchanging daughters, she agreed. If she is Mao Ji's biological daughter, would she be so cruel and heartless? It is because I am your daughter that she will treat me so viciously. If it is Qin Tian, her own daughter, she will definitely not be able to let go. Duanyi cried and shouted, I beg you to believe me, you are my biological parents. How can you not believe me? For appraisal, you take me for appraisal immediately, then you will know that I am the real one, and she is its fake. She is the servant's daughter and the beneficiary of Mao Ji's design. The more Duanyi talked, the closer he got, and Qin Tian was frightened and stepped back. Uncle Qin Lu immediately said sternly, that's enough. Duanyi suddenly raised his head and looked over, and Uncle Qin Liu's fierce tone instantly became mute, because if what the other party said was true, then the person in front of him might be his biological daughter. But how could their baby Tian not be their biological daughter? How could there be anything wrong with the nature between parents and children? Husband, it's not true, is it? Tian is our daughter. The gentle Aunt Six was about to burst into tears. Mom! Duanyi immediately shouted angrily. Aunt Six looked like she was frightened. Don't call me, but seeing Duanyi's miserable and aggrieved look, she didn't dare to be cruel again. It hasn't been proven yet. Duanyi looked at Qin Tian angrily. She felt that it was Qin Tian's fault that she was not recognized by her parents now. And Qin Tian can't say a word now. The relatives around them began to talk a lot, and no one could accept the fact that Qin Tian was not their relative, but Duanyi vowed that he was willing to do a paternity test, so he probably really heard what Aunt Mao said. Just then Qin Xian stood up and said, it's too late. There's no point in talking about it anymore. Uncle Six will arrange for Duanyi to stay here first and let someone do a paternity test tomorrow. We'll wait until the results come out. Qin Liushu looked at Qin Xian, and Qin Xian said, Sixth uncle, you know, you must do it. Uncle Qin Lu felt uncomfortable, but he did not deny it. It's emotional on one side and rational on the other. It's really hurtful. Aunt Qin Lu held Qin Tian tightly, as if she was afraid that her precious daughter would be taken away. Tian, sleep with mom tonight. Qin Tian was stunned, looked up at her parents, and then looked at Duanyi. She saw that the hatred in Duanyi's eyes was about to turn into reality. I want to be alone. My parents, I want to be alone for a while. Qin Tian forced a smile on her face. Then mother will send you back, Aunt Six said immediately. She felt that Tian was her daughter who was connected by blood. She couldn't accept it, really couldn't accept it. She just wanted to escape everything now. Aunt Six didn't care about Duanyi. Although Uncle Six couldn't bear it, he really couldn't show his sudden concern for a strange girl and could only let the housekeeper make arrangements. Looking at Duanyi again, there was only one person there, gritting his teeth and crying. Many people couldn't help but feel uncomfortable in their hearts. If Duanyi was really a child of the Qin family, then he had really committed an evil act. Window. Tabula equals window. Tabula. Tabula.push, mode, thumbspeed -01, container, tabula below article thumbnail -300x250, placement, below article thumbnail -300x250, target. Type, mix. After the wife of a wealthy family was read by her mind, the melon field was full of wild animals. Author, Yu. Chapter 422. After returning, Ji Fei was in a very low mood, and everyone else was quiet. No one dared to speak. But when everyone looked at Qin Tian at the front, they still couldn't bear it. Tian, don't think too much, it's not necessarily certain. Qin Wenqiang couldn't help but comfort Qin Tian. Qin Tian forced a smile and said, I've read this kind of novel, And it's usually like this. I used to think Aunt Mao's attitude towards me was strange. So, is that so? While talking, Qin Tian still cried. Everyone quickly came forward to comfort him. Qin Jiaxi hugged Qin Tian. I can't let go, I can't let go of my parents, I can't let go of everyone. I'm not a child of the Qin family, am I? Not necessarily, Qin Yi also reassured anxiously. Qin Xiao and Qin Jing also came forward, but Qin Laoer and his family did not come forward because they were really confused. Others would also wonder if there was something wrong with Duan Yi and if it was Aunt Mao's fantasy, but Qin Laoer's family would not. Because they already knew what happened from Ji Fei's heart, at least what Duan Yi said was true, so they are more disenchanted than others. If it is true, Qin Tian is pitiful, and that part of Yi is even more pitiable. Alas, if this kind of thing happens to others, it's a waste of time. If it happens to yourself, it's simply torture. Seeing Qin Tian crying so sadly, Ji Fei pulled Qin Xian's sleeve. Qin Xian said, actually, there is no need to be so sad. The others immediately looked over, their expressions almost filled with dissatisfaction. After such a thing happened, they were not sad. The worst outcome is that Tian is not the Qin family's child, but she has been raised by the Qin family for 18 years after all. Would the Qin family care about having another daughter? Besides, it is impossible for the sixth uncle and the sixth aunt to let Tian go back to that way. If the child exchange is really true, Aunt Mao will definitely go to jail, and the other two are not related by blood, so the most likely result is that both of them will be the daughters of the Qin family. When everyone heard Qin Xian's analysis, they thought this was the case. At least it can be guaranteed that Qin Tian can maintain her current life no matter what the situation is. But thinking like this, is it fair to Duan Yi? No one spoke, but Qin Tian struggled, is this fair to Xiaoi? If it was really Aunt Mao who changed our lives, then I was the one who caused her to live like that for 18 years. If it were changed back, I would still, she will be in pain, and so will I, Wu. Everyone sighed, what can we do? Is it possible for Qin Tian to return to Aunt Mao and Live Duan Yi's life to be considered complete? I have to say that everyone couldn't sleep that night. After all, the choice of this kind of thing really tests the three views and rationality and morality. No one is perfect, and everyone can only choose to do as they please. The sixth uncle and the sixth aunt discussed all night long. Their decision was the same as Qin Xian's. If this was really the case, they would not be able to give up the daughter they had raised for 18 years, and Duan Yi, they would try their best to parental responsibilities. Early the next morning, the old man asked during breakfast what happened last night. Everyone did not want the old man to bother and only said that they would tell the old man after the matter was found out. But the atmosphere in the whole family was not good. In the morning, all relevant personnel and equipment responsible for the identification arrived at Qin's house. Qin Xian was very comprehensive in his work. He even arranged for people to search for him who were originally at the hospital. Of course, we also sent people to bring Aunt Mao and his wife directly. When the bodyguard in black appeared at the door of the house, Aunt Mao felt bad when she found that Duan Yi was missing. Until she saw Duan Yi at Qin's house and met her hateful eyes and the miserable expressions of Uncle Qin Liu's family of three, Aunt Mao's brain buzzed. Aunt Mao quickly smiled and said, Xiao Yi, why are you here? Mom has been looking for you. Are you here to cause trouble for the Qin family? Come, go home with Mom. Mom? You are so embarrassed to say it, are you my mother? How can you be so vicious and shameless? Duan Yi scolded him directly. Aunt Mao's expression suddenly changed, what are you doing here? Aunt Mao immediately started shouting regardless. Are you talking nonsense? Don't listen to her nonsense. She has hysteria and something wrong with her brain. Duan Yi gritted her teeth in hatred, I heard what you said last night. I know. I am the daughter of the Qin family, and Qin Tian is your daughter. It is useless no matter how much you say now. Anyway, we will be here soon. You will get a paternity test, and if you change things, the truth you concealed will eventually come out. You want your daughter to live a good life, you are just dreaming. Aunt Mao didn't care about Duan Yi, but said to Uncle Qin Lu, Sixth Master, don't listen to her nonsense. She has loved lying since she was a child, has bad conduct, and dreams of being a princess every day. She is just jealous of Tianation's good life. Don't worry about her. She asked me to take her away, but don't believe her lies. How could Miss Tian be my child if she is so good? The faces of Uncle Qin Lu and Aunt Six were extremely ugly, because if Duan Yi was really the daughter who had been swapped, then Aunt Mao in front of her would still say such things. How dark her heart must be. If Duan Yi was really their daughter, what is this going to be like? They didn't dare to think about it carefully, so they could only try to calm down and still wanted to have the final say. No need to say more, everything has been arranged, let's go straight to the appraisal. At this time, Aunt Mao yelled anxiously, are you sick? If a crazy girl says something, you can doubt your daughter's bloodline, and you still have to verify it. Aren't you afraid of hurting your child's heart? Everyone was shocked and angry when they heard this. If she hadn't been too partial and done too much, everyone would have felt strange about her and wouldn't have had all kinds of doubts. Now they still have the nerve to say that they were too careless. It's just a paternity test. Why are you so anxious? And you still say you have nothing to hide, Duan Yi said fiercely. Shut up. Why do you deserve this fate? Why do you want to steal someone else's life? Duan Yi's eyes were instantly filled with tears. After all, she was the one she had truly treated as a mother for 18 years. She would still feel wronged when she was told this. Is it my life, or did you steal my life? I understand now. You really love your daughter, but unfortunately I don't. So I don't deserve your love, right? Since you are so ruthless to me, why should I let you have your way? I must change our identities back so that your daughter can only be the daughter of you, a rotten man. Auntie Mao was so angry that she wanted to rush over and hit someone, but was stopped by the bodyguard. Sixth Master, Madam, you can't do this to Miss Tian. Auntie Mao saw that it was not going to work, and she was still going to cry. Suddenly, Qin Tian said, I also want to know the truth. I want to know if I stepped on others to get to the top and stole other people's lives. If so, I don't have the right to have it. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After The Wife of a Wealthy Family was read by her mind, the melon field was full of wild animals. Author, Yuze. Chapter 423. Qin Tian thought about it all night, and still felt that if it was true, she would really be too embarrassed to see Duan Yi. Her education since she was a child did not allow her to do such things. If her parents really do what her second brother said, she will also move out and try not to have any contact with her parents. Otherwise, she will feel that she will always be indebted to Duan Yi. Thinking of this, Qin Tian said resolutely to Duan Yi, let's go. Duan Yi took a deep look at Qin Tian, turned around and followed. Uncle Qin Lu and Aunt Six still focused on Qin Tian. Duan Yi could naturally notice that she was jealous. She couldn't help but said to Qin Tian fiercely, the moment the truth comes out, you must pay me back everything you owe me. Qin Tian pursed her lips, controlling her emotions and not letting herself cry. Miss Tian, no, you don't want to cooperate with her, you don't want. Aunt Mao cried, looking at the two people walking away with distressed eyes. Completely ignoring his nominal daughter. Seeing that the medical staff were still coming towards him, he struggled desperately, but his gesture confirmed something, and everyone was terrified. In the end, the medical staff forcibly took away the human tissues needed for identification. Uncle 6 and Aunt 6 were originally identified there, so they didn't need to make another trip now. Aunt Qinlu watched the medical staff leave and couldn't control it anymore. She lost her gentle temperament, rushed forward, grabbed Aunt Mao's collar like a madman and said, "Tell me, have you changed the clothes, child? Say it quickly. Say it quickly." Aunt Mao was stunned for a while, then suddenly pushed Aunt Qin away. "Why did you bring Tian Tian back? Such a good child, such a good child, why do you want to pursue the truth? You have raised her for 18 years, and you have treated her so badly, no feelings. Why be so cruel?" This statement is tantamount to indirectly proving something. So Tian Tian really isn't. Aunt 6 couldn't hold on anymore and fell back. Uncle 6 quickly held her back and looked at Aunt Mao fiercely and said, "What's wrong with our family that makes you so cruel? Where is your conscience? Was it damaged by a dog? So when you asked us for help, you were planning to set us up. You took advantage of our kindness and secretly exchanged the child. How could you?" Uncle Qinlu really wanted to cut the old woman in front of him into pieces. Why were there such people? They had provoked whomever with good intentions. Aunt Mao cried and said, "I can't help it. I just want my daughter to live a good life. I can't help it. It's all." She had a habit of looking for someone to take the blame, but her man was already frightened and said, "It's none of my business. I found out later that it was all the idea of this crazy woman. She regards her daughter as her life. I think her daughter deserves to live a good life, so she has been targeting you for a long time. How can she remain normal when she is serving a family like yours every day?" As a result, the two quarreled again in front of the Qin family. But the Qin family are not fools and will not listen to Aunt Mao's deception. Uncle Qinlu and Aunt 6 couldn't bear it anymore and rushed forward to punch and kick Aunt Mao. After all, today's tragedy was caused by her alone. It was all her selfish greed that harmed two innocent girls and Uncle Qin Liu's family. When Qin Tiantian and Duan Yi came out, they saw Aunt Mao being beaten. Both of them were stunned for a moment. Although the result did not come out, the other person was already so angry that he was beating the person. Maybe Aunt Mao had admitted it. One of their faces suddenly went blank, and the other showed ecstasy. Upon discovering their appearance, Uncle 6 and Aunt 6 stopped. Aunt Mao, who had been beaten with a bruised nose and face, looked over and said to Qin Tiantian, "Tiantian, Mom is sorry for you, I'm sorry for you, it's all useless for Mom, if you don't protect your life, it's your mother's fault." There was no color on Qin Tianatian's face, and Aunt 6 beside her looked like she was going crazy. She was obviously her precious daughter. Duan Yi looked straight at Aunt Mao. She finally saw the motherly side of this person, but it was not towards her. "Mao Ji, isn't it me who you should apologize to?" Duan Yi rushed forward and grabbed Aunt Mao's collar. 18 years, I have been your daughter for 18 years. As long as you give me your constant love for Tian Tian, we can continue to be mother and daughter. You obviously stole my life, but you refused to give me any compensation. You allowed me to be beaten, scolded, and bullied by their father and son. Your biological daughter is living a good life, but as for me, you really have no conscience. Can you make up for the sins you have done?" Aunt Mao didn't want to face Duan Yi, she just wanted to hide away and look at Qin Tiantian. Seeing her like this, Duan Yi really wanted to laugh. I really don't know if this is considered a great mother's love. She has so many plans for her children and wishes she could bear all the sins herself. If only he could be a good mother and love her when he took her away, Duan Yi, who now knows the truth, would not hate everyone so much. Duan Yi let go of Aunt Mao and looked at Uncle Qinlu and Aunt 6, "You know the truth and that I am your daughter. Don't you have anything to say to me?" Uncle Qinlu and Aunt 6 were still in a trance and collapsed. At this time, the previous head of the family, Father Qin, had to take the lead. The children of the Qin family will definitely come back. Don't worry about this. What about you, do you have any requirements? Father Qin saw that this girl had something to say. Duanyi looked at Uncle Qin and Aunt Six unwillingly, then turned to Dad Qin and said, I want Mao Ji to go to jail. I want her to pay the price for what she has done. Aunt Mao immediately looked at Duanyi in disbelief. Ji Fei, who had been watching silently, really wanted to laugh when she saw Aunt Mao's expression. Why was she surprised? Did she think Duanyi would not be cruel to her? How could she be surprised? That's inevitable. She will have the consequences if she dares to do such a thing to our Qin family. Duanyi directly avoided Aunt Mao's eyes, her eyes were full of reluctance and pain, and then she said, the Qin family, either I or her. She suddenly pointed at Qin Tiantian. No. This is not okay, this is really not okay. Aunt Lu was the first to jump out to object, and she broke down and cried. But the more she did this, the more Duanyi hated her. Why, just when she couldn't vent her resentment. Suddenly, a staff member ran out. Based on the existing data and DNA results, Mao Ji is supported as Duanyi's biological mother. As soon as this was said, the whole audience was silent, and a pin drop could be heard. Another staff member ran out. Based on the existing data and DNA results, Mao Ji is ruled out as Qin Tianation's biological mother. The scene was still silent. It wasn't until two more people came out and said that they had confirmed that Qin Tiantian was the child of Uncle Qin and Aunt Qin Lu, and Mao Ji was not, that someone finally spoke up. Impossible, this is impossible. It's you who don't want to recognize me. That's why you acted and gave false evidence to deceive me, Duanyi suddenly shouted. After the wife of a wealthy family was read by her mind, the melon field was full of wild animals. Author, Yu. Chapter 424. Not to mention Duanyi, everyone else couldn't stand it. After all, Aunt Mao has already admitted her sin, so how could she be wrong? Uncle Six and Aunt Six looked at each other, as if they were wondering if the other party had taken action. Qin Tiantian and Aunt Mao were stunned, looking around blankly. What's going on? Is it a new long? Are Uncle Six and Aunt Six really? Ji Fei was stunned. After all, what her melon-eating system saw was the truth. Qin Xian said at this time, the appraisal staff are all professional, and there are no problems with the machine. They supervise each other and monitor each other, and all samples have been compared. There are no errors. If you don't believe it, you can go out with a sample and check it out with an organization you trust. These words seemed to give everyone in the Qin family a conclusion and reassurance. So, Tiantian is our child? Aunt Six looked at Qin Xian in shock. Qin Xian nodded, guaranteed by the reputation of the Qin family. Aunt Six immediately rushed over and hugged Qin Tiantian, breaking down and crying. Uncle Qin Six's eyes were also red, and he kept raising his hands to wipe away his tears. Impossible, impossible. Duanyi still didn't believe it. You lied to me. You all joined forces because you don't want this from me. Impossible, this is absolutely impossible. Unexpectedly, the voice louder than Duanyi was Aunt Mao. I changed it myself, how could it be wrong? Suddenly something flashed through Ji Fei's mind, it's a fact, but it doesn't mean it's the truth. So Aunt Mao did indeed make the exchange, but did anything go wrong after that? Uncle Six and Aunt Six were now holding Qin Tiantian and looking at Aunt Mao as if they were protecting a calf. Aunt Mao struggled desperately, no, this is wrong. Qin Tiantian is my child, and Duanyi is yours. How could I make a mistake? At this moment, a large car came with people. Those were the medical staff back then, and many of them had retired, but Qin Xian arranged for people to find them all in the morning. Qin Xian looked at the crazy Aunt Mao and Duanyi, who didn't trust them at all, and said, "Then let's ask." With the interrogation one by one, the truth of that year soon came to light. That was the head nurse who was responsible for taking care of the baby room. She remembered that the two children were really similar at first, but she had dealt with more children, so she could naturally recognize the differences at a glance. One day when she was doing rounds in the ward, she identified two children. Qin Tiantian was number 1 and Duanyi was number 2. The two were covered with different quilts and slept soundly in adjacent positions. But when she came for ward rounds the next day, she found that Qin Tiantian was sleeping in number 2, and Duanyi was sleeping in number 1, covering each other's quilt. At that time, she thought she was a young nurse under her carelessness. The two children were held in the wrong position, which resulted in a mistake, so the old nurse easily changed the two children back. At that time, the two new mothers were not in good health, and they only took a quick look at their children. So Aunt Mao had no problem looking at the quilt covering her child, but because she felt guilty and didn't dare to look any further, she didn't notice that her child had been switched back again. The child looked the same every day, and after a few days, it was really impossible to tell the difference. The final outcome was that Aunt Mao left with what she thought was Miss Jean's biological daughter. However, the ones Uncle Qin Lu and Aunt Six protected while growing up were actually their biological daughters. The old nurse's memories coupled with the paternity test revealed the truth. Ji Fei also confirmed from the system that the old nurse's memories were true. It turned out that there was indeed a subsequent plot that led to a completely different truth. She really shocked herself. The Qin family all breathed a sigh of relief, feeling like they were surviving a disaster, because they were so close to experiencing the pain of separation. Uncle Qin and Aunt Six took Qin Tiantian directly to bow to the old nurse and thank them. For them, the old nurse taking responsibility was like a gift of renewal. The old nurse was so frightened that she waved her hands and didn't hold them accountable. After hearing the whole story, the old nurse was also frightened. Am I really my parents' daughter? Qin Tiantian was still in a daze, but her parents hugged her and kissed her on the cheek. Tiantian will always be our baby girl. Yes, always. Qin Tiantian burst into tears. Although she pretended to be strong, she was a little princess who was raised in a pampered way. She was very delicate and could not bear such a big setback. And such a cute little princess. If they hadn't discovered it because of the experience of the old nurse, they would hardly have imagined what kind of life their Tiantian would have lived under Aunt Mao's cold treatment. All of this can be referred to Duanyi, which is heartbreaking to think about. Although Duanyi is really pitiful, he really has nothing to do with their family, so they won't waste their sympathy. Uncle Qin Lu and Aunt Six turned to look at Aunt Mao, who almost killed their daughter. It's true that evil comes with evil consequences. You deserve retribution on your own daughter. Aunt Mao was completely stunned. Until she heard this, she couldn't face it and rushed directly to the old nurse. You are lying, aren't you? You are lying. But was stopped by bodyguards. The old nurse looked at her with disgust. I remember you. It was the kindness of the Qin family that allowed you to receive care similar to that of the sixth madam. I didn't expect that you were so vicious that you wanted to steal the life of another girl's daughter. Really? God has eyes. Aunt Mao shook her head desperately. No, you must not want to admit this, so you designed this witness and evidence. Duanyi has been saying this all along, and now it's Auntie Mao's turn to say it too. One of them is unwilling to accept that her beautiful dream is broken and the truth is cruel, while the other is unwilling to admit that she has worked so hard but got what she deserves, and her most beloved daughter is treated as an adopted daughter who can be tortured at will. They can't face each other, let alone themselves. Qin Xian said, I said, the samples can be given to you, you can identify them at will, even if you go abroad for identification. These words made the two people unable to stand. In the end, it was the stepfather who couldn't help but say, I said, everyone said so, obviously they are not afraid of you to check all this, this is the truth, So can you let me go? Since there is no exchange at all, there is no crime. Even if you want to retaliate, don't always detain me, it really has nothing to do with me. Auntie Mao suddenly looked over, and the next second she pounced on him, suddenly biting the stepfather's neck, and the scream instantly resounded through the sky. When Aunt Mao was pulled free, her stepfather's neck was covered in blood. If there weren't medical personnel here, the Qin family would have lost a life. It was really unlucky. It's you, it's all your fault. It's you who made me want to change my daughter. It's you, who has been abusing and bullying my daughter, treating her like a cow or a horse. It's you. Aunt Mao screamed, obviously facing the facts and knowing that Duanyi was her biological daughter. But the next moment, Duanyi threw Aunt Mao down and pinched her neck with a fierce expression. She really wanted to kill this woman. After the wife of a wealthy family was read by her mind, the melon field was full of wild animals. Author, Yuze. Chapter 425. Duanyi felt that her life was so ridiculous, and all of this was thanks to her, this woman who thought she loved her biological daughter the most, this woman who thought she would sacrifice everything for her biological daughter's happy life. Duanyi suddenly wanted to laugh. She admitted that all this was retribution for this woman's attempt to commit evil, but why did all the retribution fall on her? Why does she have such a mother? Why is she so useless yet so greedy and selfish? She once longed for a little maternal love, but then she stopped longing for it and didn't think it was her fault because she was not her mother. Now tell her that the person who was so stingy that he refused to give her any maternal love turned out to be her real mother. And this real mother actually loved her very much, but she recognized the wrong person. Ha 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 ha. Duanyi just wanted to end this ridiculous life and let this woman die. I don't want to live anymore. Of course, he was stopped by the bodyguards again. I'm sorry, cough, I'm sorry, Xiao, I don't know, I really didn't know it would be like this. I just want to give you the best life. I'm sorry, forgive me. Mom will treat you well in the future and will always treat you well. Aunt Mao coughed and humbly asked for forgiveness. But Duanyi just wants to go crazy, I tell you, in this life, you will never think that I will forgive you. Even if you die, don't think that I will forgive you. What kind of mother, you deserve it, you ruined my life, it's you, it's just you. I hate you, I hate you. I want you to die. In fact, Duanyi has not had high expectations since she was a child. She only hopes that her mother can love her. She doesn't need the life of a rich and wealthy daughter at all, she never has. Duanyi's hatred could almost turn into reality and make Aunt Mao miserable, but this miserable scene could only bring a sigh from the people around her, and no more sympathy. After all, this was a grudge between them. That's enough. This is our Qin family. Go back to your own home for your farce. Uncle Qin didn't want to look at them at all now. Butler, fire Aunt Mao. They are not allowed to appear in our Qin family again in the future in front of the house, take someone to escort them out. Aunt Mao once wanted to set up Qin Tian so viciously, so naturally they didn't want to let her go easily, but now it was more important to appease the whole family, and they didn't want to see these nasty things again. Soon, the three people were sent away. The other staff and medical staff who came here were all treated well, especially the old head nurse. Uncle Qin Sixth and Aunt Six gave her a big red envelope and promised it's a kindness. If you need help in the future, feel free to ask. The old head nurse felt that she had just done her duty and did not dare to take credit. The Qin family didn't have a good rest all night because of this incident, and they were not as excited as the sixth Uncle Qin's family, so they all went back to catch up on their rest. By the evening, Qin Tian had come back. When Ji Fei went downstairs, he saw everyone talking and laughing around Qin Tian. Qin Tian's eyes were still swollen, and she didn't know how many times she cried. It's unlucky to say the least, but if Jifei and Qin Xian act first and get the result, maybe Uncle Qin Liu's family won't have to know about the process, and even if Duan Yi shows up unexpectedly, they can stop it immediately. As a result, the timing was just right and we encountered such a disaster. It is estimated that Uncle Qin and Aunt Six will not only pamper Qin Tian in the future, but they will definitely pamper Qin Tian to heaven. After all, they almost lost it. Hey, I wonder how Duan Yi is doing, Qin Tian suddenly sighed. Why are you still thinking about her? Yes, although she is pitiful, it has nothing to do with you. Qin Tian said, but I always feel that she will encounter those factors that also have a little bit of me. Well, how can I put it, it feels like she has become my substitute and been attacked. That's not right, I can't say that either. Okay, I feel quite uncomfortable anyway. Everyone said she thought too much and was too kind-hearted. In fact, Jifei can understand. After all, they were once good friends, and Qin Tian was more or less worried. Jifei couldn't help but check the situation of those people. After Duan Yi was sent back, he ran out directly. Aunt Mao chased him but couldn't find anyone, but at this time, the stepson was still scolding Duan Yi and ordering Aunt Mao to cook. He had no idea what was going on. As a result, his eye was stabbed several times by Aunt Mao. Qin Lao's family was distracted listening to the gossip, and they were all shocked when they heard this. Is this an afterthought to help his own daughter vent her anger? But wasn't all this something she ignored at the beginning? After being sent to the hospital, he didn't die, but he was seriously injured. His life was ruined, and because the stepfather bit his throat, he would have trouble swallowing and speaking, and he would have to bear his son's huge medical expenses. His whole life all collapsed after the stabbing. Aunt Mao took a knife and frantically searched for her daughter on the street. Finally, she was taken to the police station. It is currently being held. It is estimated that she will be sentenced. After her stepfather and stepson testify, but she kept begging the police for help. She was looking for her daughter, but her daughter was lost. The police thought she was pitiful and helped her go home to look for her, but when Qin Lao's family heard this, they suddenly became curious. Suddenly, Qin Tian's cell phone vibrated. She picked it up and looked at it. She was surprised and said, "Duan Yi." Others around him immediately gathered around. That was the message Duan Yi sent. "I'm sorry, Qin Tian, thank you for trying to help me, but I was so bad. When I leave, I will remember that you once regarded me as a friend." Qin Tian was directly frightened. She can't think about it. Others didn't know either. It felt like that, but it didn't. No, Jifei suddenly said, she just got the answer, completely let go of her obsession with maternal love, felt free, and could leave her mother, so she should want to change to a new place to start her life again. Duan Yi secretly returned home, took away all her money, took away her identity card, destroyed all her things, and then left the city at night. When the police went there, they found nothing and even began to doubt whether the girl really lived here, until they found a tattered photo. It was the only photo of a family of 4, and the only photo of Duan Yi and Aunt Mao, but now there was no Duan Yi on it. Qin Lao's family was shocked. On this day, Duan Yi really experienced something that others had never experienced in their lives. It seemed that she wanted to give herself an end. This time, she cut the Gordian knot and it was completely over. The police gave the photo to Aunt Mao. Aunt Mao is now crazy about escaping from prison and going out to find her daughter. It's a pity that she is afraid that she will not be able to get out for a long time, and she will never have the opportunity to make up for her daughter. Qin Lao's family felt that Uncle Qin Lu should not need to do anything, and Aunt Mao would be tortured every minute of her future. The man who wanted to pave a good future for his daughter eventually lost his daughter completely, and had to recall what he had done to his biological daughter every day. How many times had she ignored her requests for help and the mother-daughter relationship, all of which would turn into a steel knife to torture Aunt Mao's soul every day. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the wife of a wealthy family was read by her mind, the melon field was full of wild animals. Author, Xuanhuan. Chapter 426. Really, Qin Tiantian was still unsure. Qin Xian nodded and said, "It's true. If she wanted to die, she wouldn't send you a message." As expected, Qin Tiantian believed what Qin Xian said. She also replied to Duan Yi, probably with some kind of blessing. This oolong incident was completely over. Ji Fei looked at Qin Xian speechlessly. Why was Qin Xian's words so convincing? Obviously, she was the one with evidence. Qin Xian touched his head lovingly. "Did you sleep well in the afternoon?" Ji Fei nodded. Without the psychological burden, she naturally slept well. "Don't you need to rest?" "I'm fine." Although he said that, Qin Xian still leaned on Ji Fei's head, as if leaning on her to relax. Ji Fei felt distressed and didn't join in the fun. She took Qin Xian to wash and sleep early. But she couldn't sleep, so she lay beside Qin Xian and played with her mobile phone. When she was tired, she looked at the handsome sleeping face and relaxed her mood. If she is happy, she will go up and peck at him. Anyway, Qin Xian is used to sleeping beside her, so he won't wake up so easily. He will just hug her or bury his head in her shoulder occasionally. As if he can only feel safe when he is next to her, he always tries to fit each other's body curves as much as possible. Every time this happens, Ji Fei's heart will melt. After all, who can imagine that a man who is usually as cold as an iceberg to the outside world sometimes sleeps like a quiet kitten? Ji Fei continued to play with her mobile phone, watching everyone occasionally talking in the group, and talking about the birthday party that was coming in a few days. Only the stepdaughter, the so-called seventh aunt, LV Maihe's family didn't come. Ji Fei put down the phone and fell into deep thought. Only LV Maihe's family was left to be verified. Through this period of time with the Qin family, Ji Fei has basically understood LV Maihe's family's situation. Compared to the oldest aunt and the tough-tempered fifth aunt, she, the non-blood related aunt, was actually the most favored one in the family when she was young. Everyone thought they liked Grandma Lu, so they loved her even more and treated her like a real sister. She always behaved like a likable, cheerful, lively, and sensible person at home. The only thing that was out of the ordinary was that she fell in love with a foreign college student in high school, and it was an online relationship. The family didn't know the other party's identity. Everyone just felt that she was in love because she spent too much time chatting with the other party on the internet. Although there may not be a connection, her first love ended during the time related to Qin Xian. At that time, she accompanied Xiao Tianke during the holidays. After discovering that Qin Xian had mental problems, she helped him find a solution every day. Everyone thought that Lu Maihe began to mature at that time and stopped online love. Finally, coincidentally, the person she married was Yu Hongxian, a foreign psychologist who the old man found for Qin Xian's first treatment of mental illness. It is said that it was because of that treatment period that the two spent a long time together and fell in love. Later, Qin Xian was taken away by his parents, and LV Maihe also married psychologist Yu Hongxian and was taken to live abroad by her husband. But I don't know whether it's because of the distance or because LV Maihe didn't participate in the work of Qin Group. After getting married, she had little contact with other people except Grandma Lu. Because there was no blood relationship, gradually, everyone became very unfamiliar, and they could only meet once every few years in the old house. Even their daughter, Yu Lu, had only seen her about 6 or 7 years ago. And Yu Lu happened to be the same age as Qin Tiantian, and she was just 18 years old this year. And because of the grandpa's birthday this time, Grandma Lu repeatedly told the family to come. It's hard to say how warm and cold people are. After all, everyone has their own lives, and feelings will always change. Jifei didn't want to think too much. If there is no verification, it's useless to think too much. Let's sleep well with Qin Xian first. 2 days later, I finally heard that LV Maihe and her daughter would arrive first. As for their husbands, they had patients who were unstable and needed to be present on the birthday. It was just during dinner time, and after dinner, everyone sat together waiting for LV Maihe and her son. Looking at Grandma LV rubbing her hands nervously, she obviously missed her daughter and granddaughter very much. Other elders complained together. I don't know what's wrong with Maihe. She doesn't come home often. I heard from Aunt Lu that the last time they met was 2 years ago. They usually only video chatted. Maihe used to be very lively. I don't know how she became so distant. She was still the same when we met. It seems that her husband didn't want her to come back. Ah. Is this normal? Is her husband a control freak? The psychologist should pay attention to this. It seems that she just can't leave her wife. She seems to be very clingy. She takes her with her wherever she goes on business trips. Probably because she heard their discussion, Aunt Lu couldn't help but say, she is clingy. I heard from Maihe that she secretly brought her daughter back 2 days earlier this time, otherwise she would have been kept by her son-in-law until the last day to come back together. Seeing Aunt Lu laughing so happily, it was difficult for everyone to say anything. After all, it was a matter between other couples. At least now it seems that their stepsister is still happy, so they don't say too much. At this time, Qin's father and mother remembered that the brother-in-law was Qin Xian's first psychologist. He was diagnosed with autism, with memory confusion and gradual loss of emotions. Later he was told that he couldn't be cured with his own abilities and asked them to find someone else. Thinking of what Jifei did every time they met new family members recently, they couldn't help but secretly look at the young couple, with melancholy on their faces, the last one. In fact, they hope that everyone has nothing to do with Qin Xian's affairs. They would rather be negligent parents than Qin Xian was actually killed, which would make them heartbroken. Qin Xian was holding Jifei in a daze at this time. In fact, he really didn't have any memory of this little Aunt Lu Maihe, because of the confusion of his childhood memories. Even if he tried hard to think, he only had a vague concept. In addition, there was no subsequent contact, so he had no impression at all. But inexplicably thinking of this person, the heartbeat in his heart would be heavier, as if. Why do you have to wait so long? Qin Xian was stunned, listening to the voice of the person in his arms who couldn't wait, and smiled helplessly. In the past 2 days, he clearly felt Jifei's anxiety, and he didn't even want to go out to play. Alas, I hope not. I really don't want to doubt others casually. I have been taken care of by Grandma Lu during this period, and I can't bear such a kind old man to show a sad look, but if they are really related, I will never let them go, even if it means exposing my own secrets. After the wife of a wealthy family was read by her mind, the melon field was full of wild animals. Author, Yuze. Chapter 427. Jifei's voice suddenly stunned everyone in Qin Lao's family. Exposing the secret, what does it mean? The secret of the melon-eating system? Jifei couldn't help but think about it in his heart. Well, it should be like this after all. My parents and grandfather investigated the incident so hard. If there is really a so-called criminal, it proves that there is definitely no evidence, so unless the person involved admits it or Qin Xian recovers his memory, the only hope is his own system. Jifei encouraged himself and thought naturally, if I find out, I will not hesitate to verify the existence of my system to everyone, and I will also find out the guy who hurt Qin Xian. Qin Lao's family was stunned, and their breathing became rapid. Qin Xian also looked down blankly at Jifei, who was secretly encouraging himself in his arms. Such a big secret, just for such a thing, is going to be exposed. Aren't you afraid of being regarded as a monster? Aren't you afraid of falling into uncontrollable danger? Their family used to carefully hide this secret because they were worried about Jifei's safety. But now Jifei is willing to take risks for Qin Xian. The whole family was silent and moved. Qin Lao's family couldn't help but start to reflect, and secretly vowed that if they really heard any secrets at that time, they would try their best to verify it and never let Jifei take risks. Qin Xian looked at Jifei, and felt a warm current flowing through his heart, as if his soul was wrapped in the warmest thing in the world. It turned out that Jifei was willing to do so many things for him without realizing it. But how could he bear to let Jifei take any risks? He really wanted to take Jifei away now. In fact, the truth is really not that important to him. He is already very satisfied with his current life. As long as Jifei is by his side, he doesn't need to be greedy for anything else. Qin Xian was thinking about it because of Jifei's shock, and he almost took people away impulsively. There was a sound of a car outside. Lu Maihe arrived with Yulu. She was a beautiful, bright, and generous woman, with her hair tied up and a hairpin inserted, dressed in a very Chinese style, and the girl she brought was also very smart, bold, and confident. Some people stood up to greet him, and some smiled and said hello. Only Qin Lao's family was nervously waiting for the verdict. "LV Maihe, search, no problem." Qin Lao's family gasped. Jifei was also a little surprised. She actually really likes Qin Xian. She took good care of him when he was young, often tutored him in schoolwork, and actively helped him find solutions after he got sick. Qin Lao's family smiled. Qin Xian, however, had no impression or feeling, and if he had to say it, he was even a little disgusted. But he was holding Jifei, so he naturally suppressed it quickly. She is a good elder, so I'll gossip a little. First love is, strange. The first love netizen is the psychologist Yu Hongxian. Qin Lao's family was stunned. What? I haven't heard of it. Or, no one has mentioned it? What's going on? It feels a little strange. I have to say that the heart that just let go can't help but be raised. Just at this time, Lu Maihe brought her daughter to greet Qin Lao's family. Second brother, second sister-in-law. Lu Maihe's eyes lit up and her smile became gentler. Huh, what's going on? Is there a problem with the system? Why did the information change? How did the first love become Qin's father? Qin's father, who was about to greet him, froze for a moment, and his expression suddenly became wonderful. Qin's mother's face also changed slightly, but she still held on, and then looked at Qin's father with a smile, because she had never heard Qin's father's explanation. Strange, why did the information change? Jifei encountered such a situation for the first time, and was simply confused. He even wondered if he had seen it wrong when he looked inside. However, Jifei did not delve into it. After all, he didn't know when the voice function of the system had been offline. No matter how he shouted, there was no response. Jifei thought that the questions he asked were too stupid and the other party didn't want to pay attention. When encountering problems, you can only find the answer yourself. He asked twice at this moment, but it didn't matter if there was no response. Continue to watch. Is it too outrageous? Huh, damn, did I poke the elder's young thoughts? I'm so embarrassed. It turns out that at the beginning, except for Qin's father, the other three men in the Qin family liked her, but she only liked Qin's father, and then because Qin's father and Qin's mother met, she was anxious to confess, but was rejected, because Qin's father liked Qin's mother at that time, and there was a big age difference between him and LV Maihe, and Qin's father always treated her as a little sister. So it was impossible. Because it was too embarrassing after being rejected, LV Maihe found an online lover online, pretending that she had found a boyfriend, and it was just an illusion about Qin's father. Qin's father immediately breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, there is a good daughter-in-law who helped him prove his innocence. In fact, it was because the little sister said it was an illusion at the beginning, so he didn't take it seriously, and didn't even put it in his memory. Over time, he really forgot it. If it weren't for Ji-Fei's mentioning it, he really couldn't remember it in this life. After all, which adult would remember a little sister saying that she liked him? At that time, she was younger than Yulu now. Anyway, she was not yet an adult. Qin's father suddenly froze for a moment. Wait, so, there are several people in the family who like minors? Pervert. Qin's mother was also relieved, at least Qin's father didn't hide it intentionally. And looking at Lu Maihe's current state, she should be living a good life and not a love rival. The younger generation of Qin Lao's family was also forced to eat these old melons, and they were embarrassed to face this elder. Because of this interruption, no one ignored the suddenly changed information. When LV Maihe saw Qin Xian, she was stunned for a moment. You are Qin Xian, you look completely different from when you were a child, I can't recognize you. Qin Xian nodded lightly. No one noticed, he didn't even look at LV Maihe. And only Ji-Fei felt that the arm around her seemed to be tighter. Ji-Fei was about to look at Qin Xian in confusion, and heard LV Maihe say, "You are Qin Xian's wife, Ji-Fei, hello, you are so beautiful." "Hello," Aunt Ji-Fei smiled politely. LV Maihe didn't stay for long, but asked Yulu to say hello. As a result, there was no movement after reminding for a long time. Ji-Fei looked up and saw that the beautiful and bright girl was staring at Qin Xian, who was looking down and didn't know what he was thinking. She didn't move, but her cheeks gradually turned red. She looked like she was staring at him in a daze. Ji-Fei coughed and reminded him. Lu Maihe also pushed her daughter awkwardly, but Yulu still didn't respond. Qin Xian, who had been inexplicably tense, looked over in confusion when he heard Ji-Fei coughing, and asked, "What's wrong? Your throat is uncomfortable, do you want some water?" It was not until Qin Xian spoke that Yulu woke up from her dream, and then looked at Ji-Fei. The look in her eyes was no longer a friendly first meeting, but a serious and vigilant look. After the wife of a wealthy family was read by her mind, the melon field was full of wild animals. Author, Yuze. Chapter 428. Ji-Fei's radar went off. "Oh, you didn't find Qin Xian's enemy, but you found my love rival first. What are you looking at? Look again, Qin Xian is not yours, but mine." Although she was already MMP in her heart, her expression was still friendly, and she was leaning on her husband's arm attentively. "It's just a little itchy in my throat, it's okay." Qin Xian naturally heard the voice in his heart, and saw Ji-Fei's proud and boastful look. His heart was instantly filled, and he looked at Ji-Fei with a smile and doting. "Qin Lao's family, it must be yours." Yulu's face flashed an unnatural expression. In the end, Lu Maihe could only say jokingly, "Do you think that brother and sister-in-law are too good-looking, and you are all stunned?" No matter whether the others around understood the situation just now or not, they all laughed and laughed together. Yulu reluctantly said, "Brother Qin Xian is good-looking." Ji-Fei, so. Now Lu Maihe was embarrassed, and could only smile apologetically at Ji-Fei, and turned back to knock her daughter's head. Then he took Yulu to say hello to the others. Qin Xian held Ji-Fei and sat down. Ji-Fei leaned close to Qin Xian's ear and bit her earlobe gently. She was not satisfied until she saw that earlobe turned red. But she still pretended to be angry and cursed, "Beauty is a disaster." Qin Xian looked at her with an innocent expression, then lowered his head and rubbed his nose. The love made the people around him look helpless, but they were already quite used to it. Qin Lao's family was in a good mood at the moment. Lu Maihe was fine, as long as the big family was harmonious. Naturally, they also knew that Ji-Fei's system might not be so accurate. The last incident was enough to prove its flaws, but generally the events that the supervisor could move must be true. Whether there were any unexpected situations afterwards, it could not be determined, but at least through the system, it could be known that in Lu Maihe's memory, she had never harmed Qin Xian. However, there was one thing that everyone was still concerned about. At the same time, Ji Fei was also calculating in his heart. In order to eliminate all doubts, Ji Fei had to check the situation he had seen before. The person I fell in love with online at the beginning is the psychologist later. Is it such a coincidence? Why is this information so brief? Isn't it important? System, can you do it? Ji Fei was a little irritable. How should I put it? When the system provided information in the past, it was very clear and exciting. But this time, I don't know if Ji Fei was too suspicious. I always felt that the information about Lu Maihe was scattered here and there. Some places were too detailed, and some places were too brief. It was not in line with the style of the melon-eating query system. So when everyone separated, Ji Fei couldn't help asking Qin Xian, I heard that my uncle-in-law was the first person to give you psychological counseling that year. Do you still remember him? Qin Xian answered honestly, I have some impression, but I don't remember it. Ji Fei could understand it. After all, Qin Xian was in a state of confusion at the time. He should have been young at that time. Did Grandpa ask him to come? Ji Fei asked curiously again. Grandpa asked an acquaintance in an authoritative organization to recommend someone to come. He said he was an expert in child psychology, Qin Xian replied. Ji Fei felt that if she continued to think about it, she would become suspicious again. Qin Xian was very happy that Ji Fei thought so much about him, but he felt distressed to see her thinking so hard. On the other side, the couple who saw their daughter-in-law working hard must also work hard. When Lv Maihe sat down to chat with everyone, Qin's father took the lead and asked, by the way, did your brother-in-law come on the birthday? Is he so busy at work? Lv Maihe smiled and said, well, he has a lot of patients, and they are all of status. It is troublesome to serve him and it is not easy to get away. Qin's mother immediately laughed and gossiped, while he is not here, let's gossip. Didn't you have a very loving online lover at the beginning? I don't know if it was Qin's father and mother's illusion. After they asked, Lv Maihe's expression was blank for a moment, as if she was very confused, and then she answered firmly, oh, it's him. What a coincidence, I broke up with him at that time, and I didn't know each other's real appearance and name. I didn't expect to find out that it was him later. Suddenly, the old man said, why didn't I hear you mention it before? No one asked me before. Lv Maihe smiled. The old man retracted his gaze. Qin's father and mother knew that the old man was suspicious because of this. It's not their fault for thinking too much, after all, it's too coincidental. Is it true, such a coincidence? Others asked gossipingly when they heard it. Is it really a match made in heaven? Lv Maihe smiled and said, it seems that he heard that there were treatment targets here because he knew I was in the city, so he took the initiative to sign up and pass the screening. So, it was Qin Xian who brought you together. Lv Maihe's face was unnatural for a while. Yeah. Yes. Qin's father and mother always felt that something was wrong, but they couldn't tell it accurately, so they could only tell the children the news they got. So when everyone brought Lu to the young people's base, Qin Yan, Qin Xiao and Qin Rong found an opportunity to gossip with Ji Fei and Qin Xian. Ji Fei reluctantly accepted the statement after listening. Qin Xiao deliberately smiled again and said, but my parents said that it felt a bit strange when my aunt said this. I guess it's a bit embarrassing for others to know about this. But the information provided by Qin's father and mother basically matched the information provided by the system, so there should be no problem. My husband's family is even more gossipy than me. They also use a small group to secretly gossip about other elders. If I tell them about the relationship between the little ant and the men of the Qin family, I guess they will talk about it. The three siblings of the Qin family, it's already very explosive. There is almost a crisis for parents. Ji-fei was distracted for a while and was thinking about the problem of Lu Maihe and Yu Hongxian again. There was always a hunch that something was wrong. Qin Xian didn't want Ji-fei to get stuck in a dead end. After all, there was not enough information now. If there was really a problem. In fact, Qin Xian was more suspicious of the psychologist Yu Hongxian. So he said along with Qin Chao's words, and also reminded Ji-fei in disguise. When the little uncle comes, everyone should stop making fun of them. Ji-fei woke up instantly. Yes, why rush, it's like Hongxian comes, double confirm, it's safe. At the same time, Qin Xian had sent a message to his special assistant. Although he didn't know why he was autistic before, in the last period of time, the only one who had the best chance to do something to him and was capable of doing it was Yu Hongxian. Based on his reaction to Lu Maihe and Ji-fei's intuitive concern for this family, Qin Xian felt it necessary to send someone to find out Yu Hongxian's past experience. He looked at Ji-fei, his eyes were full of her. He couldn't let his wife suffer all the time. At this time, everyone was already in the hall, and according to the convention of welcoming new people, they sat down and chatted. Qin Jiaxi and Qin Tiantian were very enthusiastic about Yu Lu, who was about the same age, so they talked a lot. Qin Rong was not much different from them, but she had been following Ji-fei, so she didn't say much. Yu Lu, who was sitting down, suddenly said to Qin Tiantian and Qin Jiaxi, "You two are obviously the eldest daughters of the Qin family, why are you so different? One is like a real princess, and the other is like a maid. Qin Jiaxi, you are actually a very humble and flattering personality. You will never get real love in your life. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment." After The Wife of a Wealthy Family was read by her mind, the melon field was full of wild animals. Author, Yuze. Chapter 429. These words made the two little sisters' faces stiffen. The surroundings also became quiet in an instant. Seeing the reactions of the crowd, Yu Lu immediately became uncomfortable and said, "Oh, sorry, I'm too direct. I don't mean anything else. As you know, my father is a very good psychologist, so I learned a lot from him. It's a professional disease. Ha ha ha. It's not easy for everyone to argue with her little girl. It's okay." Qin Jiaxi also subconsciously made up for the other party. She had formed the habit of pleasing people in such a family before, but she has gradually changed. "So what about you? Is it a low EQ personality?" Ji-fei retorted without any hesitation. Yu Lu froze for a moment and looked at Ji-fei with an ugly face. Others secretly gave Ji-fei a thumbs up. Ji-fei was still fierce. Sorry, I'm too direct, I didn't mean anything else." Ji-fei smiled sarcastically and took Qin Xian's hand and said, "I have low emotional intelligence, because my husband said that my position does not require high emotional intelligence, everyone will give in to me." Everyone nodded in agreement. Yes, she will be given in, she is the wife of the head of the family. So I don't need to change, but you, be careful to get beaten when you go out. Ji-fei looked like a kind reminder, which made several people present burst into laughter. Yu Lu was so angry that she wanted to stand up and leave, but was persuaded by Qin Wenqiang and Qin Xiao to sit down. "Everyone is joking, don't mind it. If Yu Lu really gets angry and runs away, it will simply prove that they are bullying the new siblings. However, this Yu Lu is really unpleasant. If it weren't for Grandma Lu's face, no one would be willing to pay attention to her. On the one hand, she is as arrogant as a peacock. She knows that her father is a big shot in the field of psychology, but so what, who here has a lower status than her? It's not that they are xenophobic, it's just that this Yu Lu is really hard to get along with. Fortunately, Ji-fei can teach her a lesson. They also want to learn from Ji-fei, but they really don't dare. Yulu rolled her eyes at Ji-Fei in annoyance. Obviously, she hasn't figured out who she shouldn't offend. Ji-Fei doesn't like her either. When you don't like someone, you have to eat her melons. Okay, no wonder I don't like her. She is not a low EQ personality, she is a disgusting personality. Well, she formed a small group at school, isolated and bullied others because of her father's patient connections. She was surrounded by a bunch of foreign young masters and young ladies. In addition, her father's family was a medical family, so their small team was simply impossible for ordinary people to deal with. She was the school belle and school bully of that school, and she was the only one in the world. No wonder she was so arrogant and superior to the young masters and young ladies of the Qin family. It turned out that she was used to it. Only Qin Lao's family could hear the voice here, so at this moment, other people would chat with Yulu, but Qin Lao's family was concentrating on eating melons.jpg. But in Yulu's opinion, that family was just against her at the instruction of Ji-Fei. Then her eyes fell on Qin Xian again. This was the first time she fell in love with a man at first sight. Based on her experience, she could tell at first sight that she was a man who was not her husband. It was obvious that the man in front of her was absolutely the best of the best, and there was no one she knew who could rival him. She had never seen Qin Xian before, and even when she looked at the photos of the Qin family, she had never seen him. She only knew that there was such a person. At that time, her life was colorful, so how could she be curious about a name? Until now, she regretted it. If she had known that Qin Xian would be so perfect, so outstanding in temperament, and the head of the Qin group at a young age, she would have immediately asked her mother to take her to visit Qin Eryi's house. She should have grown up with Qin Xian since she was a child, so that she could get the moon first. But, it's not too late now, right? Her bottom line is not to be a stepmother, and to get other people she likes, otherwise she will live in vain. She is young, she is beautiful, and she understands men's psychology. The man she likes will never escape her palm. Yulu was originally wearing a small outer layer, but she took it off on the spot under the pretext of being hot. All the boys present were embarrassed for a moment. Yulu's dressing style is European and American, and she is still too unfamiliar with this place. It's not that I don't mean to disrespect the freedom of dressing, but when a girl's vest has exposed most of her scenery, and she is just a little bit away from being exposed, and she twists her body from time to time, as if unconsciously showing her curves to the person opposite, it is really too uncomfortable. Especially when she suddenly stood up, bent down, and reached for the tissue on the opposite side of the big coffee table, it was almost delivered to the person. There were only two men sitting opposite, one Qin Xian and the other Qin Chao. Qin Chao felt that he was accidentally injured. And he was very clear about the other party's meaning. After all, he often suffered such seduction when he worked there, but he had already sealed his heart with cement and kept himself clean. And at this moment he wanted to laugh, because in front of him was a kind of wink to a blind man. Didn't this girl see that even when her brother was sitting here chatting, his eyes never left his sister-in-law? He had asked Qin Xian curiously before, "Don't you get tired of looking at her all the time?" Qin Xian said he didn't know, but looking at Qin Xian would make him feel calm and comfortable, and he wanted to keep looking at her like this, watching every little expression on her face. People around them are used to it after a few days of getting along. But Yulu is going to be embarrassed. Sure enough, when she sat back and looked up, she found that Qin Xian, who was sitting opposite her, didn't see it at all. But Ji-Fei, who was standing next to her, was staring at her chest with a burning gaze. Damn, so big, why can she be like this at the age of 18? It's not scientific, it's absolutely not scientific. 3 people from the Qin family, no, look at the point. Ah, that's not right, she seems to be seducing my husband. 3 people from the Qin family, it's okay, it's okay. Am I so unintimidating? You still want to compete with me for females? No, it's not my fault, I'm already very good, it's that Qin Xian is such a fragrant flower, all kinds of bees want to take a bite. 3 people from the Qin family, yeah, it's all Qin Xian's fault. Jifei turned her head suddenly, and ended up meeting Qin Xian's side directly. It was strange that whenever Jifei wanted to look at Qin Xian, she always found that he was looking at her. And once they looked at each other, I didn't know why, I wanted to laugh. Instantly, I didn't feel depressed anymore. Jifei couldn't help but curl her lips, and Qin Xian followed suit with a smile. The two of them were completely oblivious to the people around them, and Yulu, who was sitting opposite them, turned pale with anger. Yulu stopped talking and took out her phone to send messages angrily. She wanted to find out how this Jifei got together with Qin Xian. After the wife of a wealthy family was read by her mind, the melon field was full of wild animals. Author, Yuze. Chapter 430. When everyone saw her like this, they were really afraid that she would complain to the elders that they bullied people, but in fact, she was the one who started the trouble first. Ahem, Yulu, have you got a boyfriend? Qin Yi saw that it was a bit awkward, so he changed the subject and reminded Yulu. After all, Yulu's intentions were already known to everyone, but the Qin family couldn't have such immoral things. What if it went too far? What would the elders do? Yulu almost clamped her throat and said coquettishly, no, my standards are too high, and I haven't been in a relationship until now. Jifei was about to take a sip of water, and when she heard this, she almost spit it out. In the end, she was choked and was hugged by Qin Xian for a long time, and Yulu's face on the opposite side was distorted again because she felt that Jifei saw her thoughts, so she deliberately showed affection with Qin Xian here and declared her sovereignty. This point really wronged Jifei, she was purely shocked by Yulu's bold remarks. Not to mention that your current boyfriend contacted you not long ago, you haven't been in a relationship, no, big sister, you've been dating since junior high school, not to mention, those are illegal in China before the age of 18, although it's your love and freedom, please don't lie to others, okay. The 3 members of the Qin family, really a troublesome person has come. Yulu was not affected and continued, no matter how you look at it outside, it's not as good as our brother, especially brother Qin Xian. It's really the first time I've seen him. There must be a lot of people who like him. Qin Xian didn't give face at all. He didn't want to care about people he didn't like. Usually at this time, others habitually spoke for him. Xian has been liked by many people since he was a child, Qin Yan said, but he never liked them. That's quite a lot. Some of those who like me can change their minds when they see my second brother, Qin Chao said, so my brother doesn't like them either. As long as someone meets my brother through me, they will definitely ask me to help introduce them, Qin Rong said with emotion, but my brother has never been attracted to anyone. Really? Jifei suddenly said with interest, did it cause any particularly spectacular scenes? The 3 Qin family members, we are talking to others, why are you so excited? As they said this, the 3 people really helped to recall all kinds of novel-like plots, which made Jifei very excited. Jifei, you are so excited, do you wish you could be with Qin Xian when you were a child? Qin Yi teased. I guess you want to be in love since you were a child, Qin Xiao smiled. Actually, what I think is that if there are so many people, it's basically the same as an idol. If you sell Qin Xian's photos and charge for passing notes and gifts, wouldn't you be able to achieve financial freedom during your student days? After all, in the original world, Jifei did such a small business, which was a small business. Jifei, yes, I want to be with Qin Xian since childhood, and it would be best if we were desk mates. Others were laughing at the sweetness of the two. The 3 members of the Qin family were desperately pinching each other, holding back, not laughing. Qin Xian on the side was depressed, okay. Qin Xian directly pinched Ji-Fei's chin, turned around and looked at him, and said in a somewhat unclear tone, "Yes, it would be nice to be deskmates." After saying that, the ending tone of his voice could not help but become gentle. "Yes, it would be nice to be deskmates, but it's a pity that they are still many years apart, which is really a pity. If it weren't for the long time of not being able to get such a person, he wouldn't have gone astray halfway. It's strange to say that he has forgotten why he agreed to date someone in the first place, as if he should have dated at that time. But it makes sense. Before he fell in love with Ji-Fei, his life was all routine. He lived the same way as ordinary people. There were people he hated, relatives and friends he cared about, but no one who influenced him deeply, until Ji-Fei appeared. Qin Xian couldn't help but hug Ji-Fei, who jumped out of his arms, tightly again. There were laughter all around, but it made a person's anger almost sore. It was obviously her provocation. How did it become a dog food again? Swallowing a mouthful of blood, Yulu still said, "Who is Qin Xian's first love?" The reason she asked this was that she didn't recognize that a man like Qin Xian's first love was his current wife, which was harder than winning the lottery. Are other women all fools? Has no one ever won Qin Xian? It has to be said that Yulu's topic hit the thunder point accurately. Qin Xian's only dark history. The three members of Qin Lao's family knew about it. Although the others didn't know, they seemed to have heard about it in college. So the first love was. Qin Xian was scared at this moment. He lowered his head and leaned on Ji-Fei's shoulder, completely submissive, hoping that his wife would not be angry and not bring up the past. "Ha ha ha, you want to sow discord, but you picked the topic that Qin Xian disliked the most. Can he, a big CEO, talk about being cheated in love? Ha ha ha." Qin Xian. Qin Lao's family. Oh, I worried for nothing. Why? It's not convenient to say, or does sister-in-law not want to hear it? Yulu was just picking trouble. Others thought there was really something taboo and wanted to help change the subject. Suddenly, Qin Yan seemed to think of something and laughed. "If you really want to talk about first love, it should be said that it was the first woman that Xian promised to marry." Qin Chao and Qin Rong immediately looked at the eldest sister in horror. What's the situation? Is the eldest sister so fierce? Want to make trouble? Did the second brother say that he wanted to marry that ex-girlfriend? Qin Xian also looked at Qin Yan in confusion. Ji-Fei became curious. After all, she couldn't check Qin Xian's gossip now, and she didn't see much of many things at the beginning. Yulu looked at the faces of several people and immediately smiled and said, "Oh? What's the situation? Everyone, just talk about it. No one should be unhappy. Don't spoil the fun." In the end, no one paid attention to her. They were nervous, curious, and worried, but Qin Lao's family was ruining the show, and the other families could only eat gossip. Qin Yan suddenly smiled at Ji-Fei and said, "It's you." Ji-Fei was stunned. "Ah. Me?" Ji-Fei thought Qin Yan deliberately talked about their later relationship, and Qin Xian said he wanted to marry her. Qin Chao and Qin Rong also remembered that Qin Xian had never said he would marry his ex-girlfriend, so Qin Yan found a good breakthrough point. Even Qin Xian thought so. Others thought it was Qin Yan's cleverness. The next second, Qin Yan seemed to recall, "I remember it was when Qin Xian was 10 years old, at that time, Qin Xian was willing to spend time with us. It was a scene of playing house. I wanted to be the bride, and asked Qin Xian to be the groom. As a result, he said very seriously, 'I have promised to marry someone else in the future, so you can't be my groom, even if you pretend.'